Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. It works.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we will be doing our presentation on attachment parenting. I'm Riley.
I'm Jianhua.
I'm Xinyu.
So for starters, what is attachment? According to the textbook, Bigner and Gerhard defined attachment as an affectional tie between the infant and his or her caregiver. Infants learn to trust their caregivers when their needs are met promptly and frequently. So for example, if the baby's hungry, he or she will be fed. If they're tired, they'll be rocked to sleep. If they're sad, they'll be loved. And this attachment takes place in the first 2 years of the infant and toddler's life. And this 2 years is what builds what attachment style they're going to have. So why is attachment so important for parents to understand? A parent's responsiveness to the infant from the moment they're born follows them throughout their whole life. So if the parent is very affectionate and responsive to the child from the moment they're born, they're gonna build the strong attachment type. So strong attachment develops emotional, physical, social, and psychological well-being. So if the child has strong attachment, they're gonna have all of these factors. And if they have poor attachment, if it's not built properly, the child can develop behavioral issues. So this can look like acting out in class, hitting kids, biting kids. They can also develop depression and anxiety, and having issues regulating their emotions. And with the regulating of emotions, this is because they didn't have that model in the first 2 years of their life. So they're either taught to like repress their emotions and it's not okay to feel emotions, or, when they were sad, they weren't comforted or told it was going to be okay. So they don't know how to do that. And unfortunately, this can fall throughout the rest of their life unless they seek therapy. There is a therapy specific for emotion regulation, and it's called DBT therapy. So if this is done, like maybe in their like teenage years or even like adult years, they can kind of wipe their past history and learn how to properly regulate their emotions and, make themselves feel better, whether it's taking a shower, going for a drive, reading a book, like whatever it is that they enjoy doing.
Okay, for the attachment parenting for infants, quick responses to crying, breastfeeding on demand, touching and holding my important attachment parenting practices with infants. Crying is an effective social cue from infants, which conveys message about the baby health state and physical and emotional needs. Quick response to crying plays a crucial role in the attachment bond between parents and infants. Infants whose parents respond to crying quickly, consistently, and kindly are emotional healthier than infants whose parents are insensitive and unresponsive. Next, please. Promptly response is also associated with lower crying frequency and faster language development. It's a common misunderstanding that infants can be spoiled with quick responses from their caregiver. However, extensive articles have proven that being unresponsive to crying can increase infant stress level, leading to emotional distress that could become permanent and irreversible. Therefore, parents' sensitivity and responsiveness to infants are highly relevant to the establishment of the attachment bond between parent and child. Next, please.
Okay, so attachment parenting has some physical benefits as well. First, the practices of attachment parenting maximize the infant's chances of survival. Previous researchers have argued that it is a natural and biological necessity for a child to seek closeness and security from their attachment figure. Parents' quick attention to crying babies can increase the infant's survival and minimize the suffering from hunger and disease because crying has been repeatedly associated with a sign of hunger and illness in infants. Next one. Next, practices of attachment parenting can lead to lower health risks among infants. One of the practices is breastfeeding, especially breastfeeding on demand. Mothers who breastfeed more and on demand can lead to more secure attachment and less attachment disorganization when infants were 1 year old. As a common attachment parenting practice, breastfeeding has been shown to have a positive correlation with an infant's health, such as lower SIDS risk, lower risk of asthma and atopic allergies, and childhood obesity. Also, breastfeeding on demand has proven to play a crucial role in high infant mortality and in many cultures. Overall, the above research has made clear arguments about the positive impacts of attachment parenting practices on infant survival and health. Next one. One major psychological benefit of attachment parenting is that they reduce toxic stress in both infants and the parents from crying. Crying is a normal infant behavior. However, research has shown that when infants cry alone without getting any attention, they experience a high level of stress and anxiety. Moreover, persistent or excessive infant crying is also associated with parental exhaustion and depression, which worsens the parent and child relationship and leads to more harmful parental behaviors. Responsiveness to crying is congruent with attachment parenting, and extensive research has illustrated that high-level responsiveness to crying can mitigate stress reactions in both infants and parents. This nurturing and sensitive parenting approach, feature with prompt response to babies' needs, can protect both children and parents from harmful stresses, allowing them to adapt and learn self-regulation. Next one. Furthermore, evidence has shown that secure attachment to caregivers during childhood is critical to future mental health. When working as a psychiatrist and observing children who suffer from emotional disturbance, Bowley discovered that the reasons behind children's mental disorders are isolation from caregivers, low level of intimacy and attention, or negligence. Moreover, stress experienced in the early days can have a long-lasting detrimental impact on the children's development. Based on research, unattended crying during infancy can double the risk of mood and behavioral problems at the age of 5. So attachment parenting characterized by a high level of intimacy and attention can benefit children's mental health throughout their development.
So for my first study on social emotional development, it had to do with maternal bonding and infant social emotional development. So the participants in this study were 1,623 pregnant mothers, and they were enlisted from 4 different hospitals from the years of 2009 to 2013 in Australia. And data was gathered through interviews and surveys during the mother's pregnancy all the way up to the postpartum period. So we had the first trimester, the second trimester, the third trimester, birth, 8 weeks postpartum and 12 weeks postpartum. Those were all the periods that were studied. In the results of this study, if the infant was given the most bonding from birth to 8 weeks postpartum, they would have significant social emotional development by the time they reached 12 weeks postpartum, and also the rest of their life. As I mentioned earlier, the sooner the attachment is stronger, the better it's going to be throughout their life and built up over a period of time. If they have the sufficient social emotional development, they will develop milestones such as trusting others, showing affection to familiar faces. So this can be mother, father, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nannies, whoever. And some of the emotions they'll learn to show are joy, anger, surprise, disgust, and fear. And if the infant was not giving them most bonding from birth to 8 weeks postpartum, they aren't going to have sufficient social emotional development by 12 weeks postpartum, and most likely not throughout the rest of their life as well. And when the social emotional development isn't sufficient, it's most likely due to the effects that the mother experienced after giving birth. So actually one of the most common is postpartum depression, especially for mothers who it's their first baby. And during postpartum depression, the mother's just like very detached from the baby. Like if the baby cries or is hungry, she doesn't attend to them, and she's kind of just sad and tired and in her own mind. And two other things can also be anxiety and stress. And some reasons for this can be the pregnancy was unplanned and the mother doesn't want to put the baby up for adoption or abort. Another one can be like financial stresses. Couldn't have like not a lot of money, and so the mother can like worry about like giving the baby everything the baby needs, like providing, like food, clothing, all of that. And also could be an abusive relationship. So if the relationship is abusive, the child is going to be using that relationship as a model, which will affect them in the future. And the most detrimental outcome of the insufficient social emotional development is the child being able to regulate their emotions, as I mentioned earlier.
The attachment parenting for toddlers and preschoolers. Attachment parenting requires parents to continue to adopt nurturing and responsive strategies and apply them in different situations to cope with the changes in their children's behaviors. One shift of behaviors for children during their period in the exhibition of fears included being afraid of darkness, monsters, and strangers. These fears are normal process and temporary only if parents have proper treatment toward them. Next, please. Otherwise, fear and anxiety can become persistent and cause long-term adverse impacts on children, including their learning performance, social behavior, and health. There are some effective strategies for parents to ease children's fear, such as responsiveness to fear, holding and touching with care, gentle soothing, explanation of the fear, and emotional reassurance with the children. These strategies are consistent with attachment parenting strategies. Next, please.
So in my second study, it was also on social emotional development. And this study focused on mothers with depression and their children who were preschoolers helping, sharing, and comforting them like during the difficult challenges they were facing. So the participants were 164 low-income mothers from Early Head Start in Baltimore. And during the procedure, the researchers engaged in an assessment that lasted 10 weeks. And the assessment was specifically on the attachment between the child and the mother. And before the assessment started, the mothers were asked to fill out a depression scale questionnaire where they rated their depression on a scale of 0 to 4, 0 being the lowest and 4 being the highest. And then next came the experiment. And during the experiment, this is where the researchers examined the children's attachment security as well as their pro-social behaviors with the mother, as I mentioned earlier, which were helping the mother, sharing with the mother, and comforting the mother. So for the children who had secure attachment to their mothers were nurturing towards them, attended to their needs, and comforted them when they felt like they were in danger from the moment they were born. They showed hidden strengths while dealing with the mother's depression. They were able to gain a sense of empathy when they saw their mother sad. And as I mentioned earlier, the sharing, like they would take, their favorite toy, their favorite book that would make them happy and share it with the mother to try and make the mother feel better because they knew it would make them feel better. And they were able to project this empathy with their peers at school. If they saw a friend who was sad or upset, they were able to talk to them, give them a hug, and make them feel better. And then down the road in life, they were generally a more empathetic person as they got older.
Okay, so there's some concept about attachment theory. So there are two leading theorists were John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth. And Bowlby was a British psychologist, psychiatrist, and psychoanalyst. He is well known for the World Health Organization and his position as a mental health consultant. Ainsworth was a Canadian developmental psychologist, and he's well known for her. She was well known for her participation in play therapy with children, and derives from the infant's connection with the caregiver from the moment they are born. And according to Ainsworth, there are 4 attachment styles, which are secure attachment, insecure attachment, avoidant attachment, disorganized attachment. Secure attachment means children uses the mother as a home base and is at ease, which she is present. Insecure attachment means child has a combination of positive and negative reactions to their mother. Avoidant attachment means the child does not seek proximity to the mother. Disorganized attachment means the child shows inconsistent, contradictory, and confused behaviors towards the mother. And these styles were studied in the strange situation procedure. During this scenario, the infant and caregiver were in an unknown playroom with a mirror for examination. After a while, the caregiver would exit the room for a period of time and then return. While the caregiver was gone, the researcher will document how the child acted when the caregiver left and returned.
So we're going to show a quick video on the strange situation procedure. Hopefully it loads. Oh no, what happened? Sorry, you guys. Try one more time. I don't know why it's not working. Oh,
Skip.
wait, I think it's
Yeah.
gonna work.
Usually bras fit small-chested women like this. Thus, look at how much.
But can the essential elements of home life be translated into a standard laboratory setting for controlled scientific study? After conducting extensive observations of parents and children at home, a student of Bowlby's, Mary Ainsworth, devised such a procedure called the strange situation, which places the child under some stress. It has become the most widely used standardized way to assess the quality of a child's attachment to their caregiver. Here the researchers are recording how 14-month-old Lisa responds in this attractive but unfamiliar setting. How will she react to a stranger? What will happen when her mother leaves the room? And when she returns? It's Lisa's behavior when her mother returns, what psychologists call the reunion, that they are particularly interested in.
Most importantly is to look for the type of balance that a child strikes between an attachment need and, on the other hand, to explore the play material.
Once Lisa has settled down to play, a stranger enters the room and sits in a chair reading a magazine. After a couple of minutes, the stranger attempts to interact with Lisa. Soon after, Lisbeth gets a cue to leave the room. The stranger tries to comfort Lisa, but in vain. Lisbeth comes back into the room, and the camera records how Lisa reacts. Now the first part of the procedure is over, and Lisbeth settles Lisa down again. The stranger leaves them alone together. And soon after, Lisbeth goes too. Lisa is on her own. Her distress is plain to see. Once again, the efforts of the stranger to console Lisa are to no avail. Lisbeth manages to calm her almost at once, and shortly afterwards the observation ends. Lisa showed outward signs of what's called secure attachment.
Right. I think we should.
Okay, so after watch this video, and we have the question: which attachment pattern related to you most as a child? If you are parents, what attachment style related most to your child?
So for me as a child, I had a secure attachment with both of my parents, mostly my mother mainly because my dad worked a lot and he wasn't home much. But ever since I was little, my mom was always, she was a stay-at-home mom until I was in 6th grade. She went back to school. But she was always very nurturing to my sister and I, very loving. She would take us to school, pick us up from school, attend our curricular activities, and play with us, love us, watch movies with us. And that has made me always be a very social person and have trusting relationships with everyone. And then that's the end of our presentation. And here's our references. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we do it.
Good job, you guys.
Just
Thank
click
you.
on
So
stop
now we
recording.
have to figure out how to save it and upload it.
Okay.
On
On my end, it's still recording.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Okay. How do I stop it?
Okay. It's still recording.